Professor Bo, I think we have to stop the video a little bit because I have some questions about what you have been explaining here. And I think students may also have the similar question. For instance, when we talk about the Zhou dynasty, and we mentioned that the concept of the Tianming, the mandate of the heaven, is a very important political concept. And here, during Qing and Han periods, we also see a lot of thinkers talk about the concept of heaven. And what's the difference between the Zhou concept of Tianming and the Qing and Han concept of heaven, Tian?
Okay, fair enough. So this is one of the many things I think I probably didn't explain very well. You'll notice that before I was standing in front of the terracotta warriors, and then in front of a red wall, and that's because I never could figure out if I had given an adequate explanation of cosmic resonance theory. But Yuwen is right. We need to go back to really this whole idea of Tianming and say what that was, what had happened to that. Because on the face of it, it looks like there's no longer any concept of heaven's mandate.
Yes.
Right? But as you say, people are talking about heaven.
Yeah.
And I think what's happened is that the idea of heaven actually deciding, heaven being like a god who decides who can rule, that's gone.
I see.
And instead, heaven now has come to mean the way the universe works, the way the natural order works. And
so it's more like nature.
It's more like nature, the natural order, and that's why it can be predictable, the four seasons, the sun comes up every day, and so on. And so you have sort of the idea of this integrated natural order, and at the same time a belief that somehow we can turn human society into in a perfect order as well. And that sort of goes to the whole idea of empire, of orchestrating everybody, putting everybody together. So I think that really is a good change, and good of you to point it out, because in the next module, I think you actually helped select some readings that talk about heaven in this new way.
Yes, and we will encounter readings by very important Qing and Han thinkers.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Professor Wu, I think you have been repeating yourself a little bit. You talked about the cosmic resonance theory, five phases, and now you're talking about yin and yang. But how exactly those things are related?
How exactly are those things related?
Yeah.
So I agree. I've been repeating myself, but it's well. But you're also right that I forgot to talk about really a basic issue. So it's important to understand that both the five phases of change and yin and yang are actually ways of talking about the material forces, the energy, the matter and energy that makes up the universe. You know what the name for that is?
Qi.
Qi, right.
Yeah.
And so qi is sort of like the air is qi, our blood is qi, things, the substance, the cloth is, everything is qi. But how do we understand qi? Well, we can understand qi in terms of yin and yang. That's probably the earliest way of understanding it.
So there are two kinds of qi?
Yeah, alternating kinds of qi, right? One that's associated with the light, one that's associated with the dark, with the male, with the female, sort of the basic pair of procreation, with heaven, with earth, one that's light, one that's heavy, this sort of stuff. So yin and yang describe that. But the five phases of change are also about a cycle of qi.
So it's a movement of qi.
Well, it's a change over time through phases, right? And what seems to be, and those phases get defined as certain categories, right? So the wood, fire, and so on. And then you can correlate all the different things, tastes, directions, according to the phases. But the five phases are also about qi, because if we think about the way the five phases describe the annual cycle of the year, then what it is a movement from cold to hot, back to cold again, which is again yin and yang too. So the way it seems to work is that yin and yang was a theory, five phases were a theory.
Yeah.
Both were theories for understanding cycles in nature, and they join them together. And so that yin and yang sort of is operating within the 5 phases of change, and to make it move forward, so to speak. It's the sort of the mill that or the engine that drives 5 phases of change.
So it is that kind of interaction between yin and yang that move the qi to change from one phase to another.
To another, right? So, but of course, the next phase is somehow buried, or is nascent, or is in the earlier phase, so it's just being brought out through this process. But the if you think of this in terms of qi, of energy and matter, then it helps us understand why, for example, the lodestone picks up iron filings, because they're both qi and they're qi of a similar category, right? That's the basic idea. So I'm sorry for not having explained that right away. I should have said that. We actually, at some point in this series, will have a interview with somebody talking about Chinese medicine and the body, and qi and the 5 phases and yin and yang. Fundamental concepts. And I guess we should try to edit that and get that online sooner rather than later. My apologies in any case. So thanks a lot. Thank you very much for calling me on this and making me do this. Okay. Bye-bye.